Australia has produced a huge number of pub and hard rock bands over the past 5 or so decades. The Screaming Jets are one such band with a career spanning more than 30 years. Most people will remember them for their biggest hit titled Better, which propelled the band to the top of the ARIA charts and across the radio stations around the country. While the Jets have consistently put out new music and still tour, you won't hear much of their new music or people discussing them all that much anymore. What happened to the Screaming Jets? How have they endured for so long, and what are they up to now in 2025? Stay a while as I take you through the rise and success of the Screaming Jets. Although the Screaming Jets technically formed in 1989 when they changed their name to what it is today, the beginning of the band goes all the way back to 1981 when Dave Gleeson met Grant Walmsley at St Francis Xavier's College in Hamilton, New South Wales. Dave and Grant's first live gig together was for a school dance in Newcastle at the Town Hall. A few years later in 1985, the boys formed Sudden Impact, which wouldn't last long before changing names again to Aspect. Between 85 and 89, Paul Wassine joined in 88 on bass, Richard Lara played guitar, with Brad Heaney joining on drums to round out the band not long after. With the lineup now complete and content with the name The Screaming Jets, they played their first live gig together at a Newcastle pub in March of 1989. Seizing the opportunity, the band joined Triple J's first ever national band competition in November of the same year, winning the competition. With some momentum building for the group, they moved to Sydney in early 1990. This wouldn't be the only significant event to take place that year. Soon after, the Jets scored a gig supporting the Angels on the tour of Australia. In May of the same year, the boys signed with Rue Art, an independent label. Wasting no time at all, the band's first EP released on the 12th of November 1990, titled The Scorching Adventures of the Screaming Jets. The EP was recorded at Paradise Studios in Sydney, with production handled by Steve James, who had previously worked with the Sex Pistols and also on Monty Python's Life of Brian. At the arse end of 1990, the band were building a reputation for their energetic and sometimes violent live shows. Newcastle fans of the band would mix with Sydney fans, with fights breaking out leading to broken noses and limbs. Hot off the heels of the launch of their EP, the band released Better in February of 1991. The song propelled the band to the forefront of rock music in Australia during this period, with the song landing at number 4 on the singles charts. Triple M ranked the song at number 15 on the list of the most Australian songs of all time in 2018. With the incredible success of the single, the Jets released their debut full-length album 2 months later in April. Steve James produced for the band again, with the album released under Rue Art, charting at number 2. The album was certified gold with 35,000 units sold, an incredible position for a debut rock album in Australia. The album produced 2 more singles with Stop the World and Shine On, charting in the top 40 later in the year. The track, FRC, was a fan favourite and released internationally. With a smash hit and album under their belts, the band took off for the UK, which they would call home for a couple of years. Living in England, the band's second EP was recorded and produced again by Steve James, releasing in June of 1992, peaking at 19 on the Aussie charts. The EP contains 3 original tunes and 2 covers, including Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash and Ain't No Fun by AC/DC. Pace now, the band released their second album, Tear of Thought, 4 months later in October of 1992. The album was produced by Steve James again, recorded at Gotham Audio and released under Rue Art again. The album landed at 20 on the charts initially, eventually peaking much higher later on at number 3 in 1994. This was the band's biggest commercial success, going platinum down under with more than 70,000 units sold. Critics were favourable, with AllMusic scoring a 3 out of 5, stating, "Tear of Thought established them as stars rather than just another pub rock band." Musically, the disc continues in the vein of hard rock established by their debut, although this time the band experiments with some new musical direction, including the jazz-influenced Helping Hand, and a faithful cover of the Boys Next Door classic, Shivers. 2 more top 40 singles released off the album, which were Helping Hand and Tunnel. The band toured in support of the album, picking up a support slot for Ugly Kid Joe's tour of Europe in 1993. This tour wasn't without controversy, however, as Heaney was let go with Dave Holland filling in. Craig Roseveare would pick up the sticks permanently in July. Shortly after, the Jets picked up a support slot for Def Leppard over in the States. The current lineup in the band would be short-lived, however, with Lara being replaced by Jimmy Hocking in January of 1994. With 2 original members gone now, this was the beginning of many future lineup changes. With only moderate success over in Europe, the band were a hot commodity back home with regular radio play and a top draw in the live music scene. Between tours, the band were writing their 3rd album. The self-titled album released in August of 1995 under Rue Art and was co-produced by the band and Robbie Adams, who had produced for U2 previously. The album peaked at number 5, going gold and shifting more than 35,000 units, much the same as their debut. This album saw a stylistic shift, however, sounding more grunge-inspired to my ears when I listened to it. AllMusic scored the album a 4 out of 5 and had the following to say: "The change is a good one, and this is a much more mature effort from the band. As a group, they are tighter than ever, and the quality of their songwriting has improved noticeably from their 2 previous outings. But changing a successful formula, regardless of how good a change it is always going to alienate fans." Following the launch of the album, the single Friend of Mine released in October, landing in the top 50. Over the next 2 years, the band were touring and writing album number 4. Album number 4, titled World Gone Crazy, released in August of 1997 under ARIA again, with production handled by Steve James yet again. Commercially, the album peaked at 18 on the charts, going gold again, with more than 35,000 units sold. Compared to their previous efforts, the band moved away from their hard rock and grunge sound to a softer rock and more radio-friendly sound on this one, in my opinion. Jimmy Hocking left the band in the first half of 1998, replaced by Izzy Osmanovic. The band were now signed to BMG, which released the band's greatest hits album titled Hits and Pieces in November of 1999, which peaked at number 13 on the charts, going gold yet again, with more than 35,000 units sold. Early in the year 2000, Roy Severe departed the band, with Cole Hatchman taking his place on the drums. While all of this was taking place, the Jets were hard at work writing album number 5. The Screaming Jets made headlines on the 29th of August 2000 when they were escorted off of a plane. The plane had started its journey to the runway when it had to turn back to the terminal after band members broke out in song, singing Puff the Magic Dragon. That's definitely one way to get the attention of the press. Scam, the band's 5th album, was released under Grudge Records in October of 2000. Production was handled by the band and Ross Wilson of Mondo Rock fame. Commercially, the album peaked at number 36. There are no certifications for this album that I could find online and no professional reviews. A couple of the songs off the album head back in a more hard rock direction, but they are few and far between, with most of the songs focusing on radio rock. In 2001, the band were picked up as a support for Alice Cooper and Kiss on their tour through Australia. The band recorded and released their first live album, Live Forever, in December of 2002, followed by a short hiatus. After a short hiatus of about 2 years, the band were back together, touring and writing again in 2004, signing to Universal Music Australia. Heart of the Matter, the Jets' 3rd EP, released in August of 2004 under Universal Music Australia. Steve James handled production again, with the EP recorded between Velvet Sound Studios and Maxitone Studios in Sydney. Not long after this release, Hatchman left the band in November. Mikkel Sayers joined the band on drums shortly after. With the Jets touring on and off for a while, the band released their second live album titled Rock On the 17th of October 2005. The album was recorded at Evan Theatre in Penrith and released under Liberation Records. Before the band had a chance to release any more new music, Walmsley left in early 2007, citing external commitments. Another founding member bites the dust. Scotty Kingman took his spot on guitar. With the lineup stable for the time being, the band were working on their 6th album. In October of 2008, Do Ya released under the label Stock Exchange Music. The album was produced by the band, recorded between Australia and the States. Commercially, the album was received poorly, coming in at 114 on the charts. After a tour supporting the album, Osmanovic left guitar duties for the band, with Hocking stepping back in to complete the lineup. Not much happened between 2010 and 2012, with only a few shows here and there. 2013 saw a short run of shows at home titled The Best Of Tour. More tours followed down under between 2013 and 2016. The drought in new music was broken in May of 2016 when the band released album number 7 titled Chrome. Chrome was produced by Steve James again and released under the Dinner for Wolves label. Commercially, the album did better than Do Ya, coming in at number 30 on the charts. Rolling Stone gave the album 3.5 stars out of 4 and had the following to say: "Impressive is the solidity of Gleason's voice, as is the vibrancy of the guitars of Jimmy Hocking and Scott Kingman. Chrome feels like a band refreshed." In the middle of June in 2017, the band set off on a national tour with the Baby Animals. Amongst the touring, the band were recording album number 8 titled Gotcha Covered, which was a large collection of 15 iconic Aussie songs from the 60s through to the 90s. On the 10th of May 2019, the band put out album number 9, a greatest hits celebrating 30 years of the band's existence, titled Dirty 30, with several remastered songs. In August of 2021, the Jets released a re-recorded version of All for One, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the album that put the band on the map. Another tour of Australia followed to celebrate its release, beginning in July of 2022 and concluding in October of 2022. With all of the well-deserved celebrations of surviving 30 years in the music industry out of the way, the Jets were busy working on album number 10. In July of 2023, the lead single off of the upcoming album titled Nothing to Lose released. It wasn't all smooth sailing, however, as Paul was seen passed away on the 15th of September at the age of 56. Far too young, rest in peace. Paul Elliott joined on bass to complete the lineup once again. Professional Misconduct released on the 6th of October 2023. Another album produced by Steve James, released under Shine On, peaking at number 3 on the charts. An incredible effort for a band that's been around for so long. Critics were fond of the album, with Hot Metal Mag scoring the album 4.5 out of 5 stars, with Stack Magazine having the following to say: "Their energy has never dimmed. This is classic Jets, with a couple of curveballs. Second Chance is a superb ballad, while Lying With Her is a dark detour that wouldn't be out of place on a Tex, Don and Charlie album. But don't think that they've mellowed. The guitar interplay of Jimmy Hocking and Scotty Kingman sets this album alight. You don't hear many guitar solos on the radio these days, but the Jets aren't afraid to let one rip." The Jets toured through the end of 2023, through the start of 2024, with a few dates in June of 2025, and a few more for November at the Airlie Beach Festival of Music. What did the people of the internet have to say about the band? In response to the video for Better being posted, one Reddit user had the following to say: "I wish people listened to enough of these guys so that songs like Blue Sashes and Sad Song got the recognition that they deserved." With another saying, "First time I saw this on Rage, it blew my mind. They do a great live show as well," with a couple more making fun of the delivery of the vocals in the chorus. Over on YouTube, one user had the following to say: "Great classic Aussie hard rock track which hasn't dated at all over the last 32 years. It deserves well over 1 million views." Despite Dave Gleeson being the only remaining founding member in the band, the Screaming Jets have had an impressive career in Australia, with more than a handful of top 40 albums down under. A long string of solid releases, including tweaks to their sound, has helped the band remain popular amongst Australians. Despite numerous lineup changes, the band's most recent album, launched in 2023, shot to the top of the ARIAs. There's clearly still plenty of love for the band at home, with the band booking shows every year and staying in touch through weekly band meetings where ideas are shared around. The Screaming Jets have certainly made their mark on Australian music history. Thanks for watching.